That's amazing that you hit a unicorn like that right out of the gates. I mean, with a mailer that was so little, you got the perfect seller. I mean, that situation's amazing. And then make $100,000 rip on your third deal.
Those don't come along every day.
Welcome to the Bigger Pockets Best Deal Ever show. I'm your lovable host, Ken Corsini, who with my wife, Anita, have flipped over 800 houses in Atlanta since 2005 and even have a show on HGTV. But this show isn't about us. It's about all the amazing real estate investors out there that are crushing it. It's about their stories, their best deals, how they sourced them, how they funded them, and what we can learn from their experiences. This is the Best Deal Ever show. Hey, Bigger Pockets community, before we jump into this video, I want you to take 2 seconds and go to biggerpockets.com/best deals to reserve your copy of my new book, Profit Like the Pros. Between the bonuses we're giving away and the content in the book, I promise you will not be disappointed. Again, biggerpockets.com/best deals. Hey, this is Ken Corsini with the Best Deal Ever show. Today, I am joined by my new friends, Krystal and Dedric Polite. How you guys doing?
Hi, doing great.
Thanks for having us.
No, thrilled to have you guys on. Now, you guys are out of the North Carolina market. Tell folks where you guys live.
Yes, we are from Burlington, North Carolina, which is right outside of Greensboro, North Carolina. Right.
Okay. Yeah, so that's just south of Raleigh?
Yep, we're in between Raleigh, Durham, and Winston-Salem.
Okay, and north of Charlotte too, I guess.
Yes, north of Charlotte.
That's a good little, man, that's a great little triangle up there, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome area. One of the best places to live in America. You got people moving from all over the country.
Yeah.
We're here, yeah.
Well, and I would imagine probably not overly competitive either. I mean, I'm sure Charlotte's competitive and Raleigh's competitive, but you're sort of in between.
Yeah, we found a nice little sweet spot in between. And we do deals in Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte, Wilmington, all over North Carolina.
You do? Okay. All right. So you guys do some traveling up there.
Yes.
A lot of our stuff's virtual, actually.
Yes. So our actual market for North Carolina, where we really go hard, is between Raleigh and Charlotte. So all the way through.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Fantastic. Now, how long have you guys been at this?
So I actually bought my first investment property in 2007. Then I went back to work in corporate America. That was a triplex that I bought, house hacked it. This is before we got married. Then we got together. We both had corporate jobs, but really 2017 is when we sold our franchise and we went full steam ahead into real estate investing.
So what kind of franchise did you guys have? What business were you in?
It was a mall. It's called Animal Ride. So if you ever went to the mall and you saw these little scooters that look like little animals that kids and adults were riding on.
Okay.
That's the franchise that we bought into. So we had 3 locations, Charlotte, one here in Greensboro, another one in New Hampshire as well.
Interesting. And so you guys sold the franchise and were like, we're going real estate.
Yep.
Yes. He had been talking about it forever and a day. So I
always want to be a real estate investor. I just, I'm the analytical type. So I was in the whole analysis paralysis mode until I met this young lady, and she is like serial entrepreneur, balls to the wall. So she pushed us out the door like, hey, stop talking about flipping houses and let's actually start getting educated and doing it.
Yep.
Wow. That's, it's funny. It's usually the other way around. I feel like in like husband-wife relationships, it's like the husband's like got all this vision and the wife's more conservative and he's going to kind of convince her that this is a good thing to do. And in your case, it was the other way around. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's so cool. So how many deals have you guys done then over the last 3-4 years?
Buy and holds or just fixing
everything?
Everything, probably about, oh my God.
I think right now we have 23 buy and hold units that we own.
Oh, nice.
Probably like 50 wholesale deals.
Yep. Good for you guys too. I know we talked about this just a second. I mean, it's buy and hold is where it's at. I mean, when you're in the business, it is a business. And so you sort of get caught up with flipping and wholesaling and it's, you can make a pretty decent rip here, but sometimes it's hard to be disciplined to just keep those cherries and just wait and build that wealth. And so kudos to you guys for being smart and disciplined to do that.
Yeah, our whole thing when we got into this, Ken, was we only started wholesaling to buy and hold. So that's our main strategy. When we got started, we both had corporate jobs. We're making good money, but we didn't have a ton of savings to start flipping houses. But we always wanted passive income. So we found out about wholesaling and we're like, hey, let's wholesale some houses, get some capital and start buying more rental properties. And that's literally what we've been able to do over the past 3 years is replace our income from corporate America. We're making comfortably over, several six figures. And now we're both full-time real estate investors and entrepreneurs.
Smart, man. And that really is what you should run your business like. It's basically pay the bills, give yourself a salary, and then just crank the rest of it, man, into long-term buy and holds.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So just curious, how do you guys, your model, how are you finding deals, and then how are you deciding what to do with them right now?
So direct to seller marketing, I handle the sales, acquisition, finance, business development. My wife handles marketing. She is like the marketing ninja. She knows how to go direct to seller, and whether it's text messaging, cold calling, direct mail, she's mastered marketing because she looks at it like a puzzle. Yep. So it's a perfect combination. She tees up the leads and motivated sellers. I talk to them, get the properties under contract, and then we either keep them as rentals or we flip them to another investor.
Killer. Winning combination, guys. That's fantastic. All right, so let's pivot. So you've been at this for a handful of years. I'm sure that there is one deal in particular that stands out as your best deal ever.
Absolutely.
Yes. Our best deal ever was, what day was it? It was a virtual wholesale deal out of Boston. So first, I lived in North Carolina. And what took place with that deal was I had filtered out a really, really small niche list of properties in Boston, and I had uploaded them into our app called Deal Machine, which is a Driving for Dollars app that we use. Mm-hmm. Uploaded them into Deal Machine, and the list was about 69 people. Uploaded into Deal Machine, sent out mailers. The wife called us back. I was still really new to this.
We hadn't even, this was in May, June 2018. So we were still chasing our first deal.
Okay.
We hadn't closed our first wholesale deal yet. And again, my wife took over marketing. She had just left her job June 8th, 2018. So she's doing the marketing, trying to figure it out. I'm still doing a full-time job in the day. And then in the evenings, I'm going out on appointments and meeting with sellers and stuff. So we were still trying to figure it out. And she targeted this very niche motivated seller list, and we got a bunch of callbacks from it. And one of them ended up being this huge deal.
Yep, it was the wife who called back, July 11th, actually, 2018. She called back and said, hey, I got your postcard, and we would be interested in selling the property. I said, great.
Where is the property?
Where's the property at? She gave me the address and the information. She was like, but let me have my husband call you back. And I said, okay, great. What's his name? Got his name. She was like, I'll call you back. I'll have him call you back, and you guys can take it from there. So I said, perfect. And I sent the information to Dedric. Dedric was on the call. He got off. He was like, wait, where'd you get this information? I was like, oh, a lead just came in from the Deal Machine. He was like, do you know where this property is? I was like, no, just Dorchester.
I looked it up, and I was like, I think we just hit the mother lode, because where this property is, I don't know what this neighborhood is in Atlanta, but it's in like that gold or that red zone.
Really?
People live in houses like hotcakes in this area. So when I saw it, I was like, man, this is like the perfect
jackpot.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess you're originally from Boston. Is that sort of what the motivation was for marketing up there?
Absolutely. Yeah. That is our backyard, because we both grew up there our entire life.
Went to college there.
Okay.
So when people was like, oh, start with your backyard, I told people, like, Boston is our backyard. We can flip a property there without ever having to step foot in the city.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm curious then what this list was. 69 is a really small list to even get one callback. So I'm curious what niche list this was.
Right. And we got, from that one list, we got 17 callbacks.
Come on. Holy cow.
Yeah.
So it was an absentee out of state. So an out of state absentee landlord purchased prior to 85.
Okay.
Owned free and clear.
Yep, no mortgage.
What else was it? Owned free and clear.
I think that was it. Those were the filters, yeah.
Yep, I think those were.
So the seller actually, he ended up living in New Jersey.
Oh, in the county. So it was Suffolk County.
Which is Boston.
Gotcha.
Boston.
Gotcha.
So the seller lived in Jersey. He had inherited this house in the 80s, mid-80s, when his uncle died and he got the house. And I looked him up, and he was a successful, executive living in Jersey, owned $1 million townhouse. So he just had this house in Boston. He didn't even know who was in it. I was like, are you getting rent for this house? He's like, I don't know. I think there's some people there, but I don't even pay attention to it. There ended up being squatters in the property. It was a ton of hair on the deal.
Sure.
But it was just one of those jackpots where he didn't even know what was going on in that neighborhood with the property.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Which is why I picked that
Why
list.
she targeted that list.
So I said to him, and I just taken over marketing, literally, I just taken it over. And I said to myself, what would make me sell if I was in that market?
Mm-hmm.
And I chose out-of-state owners because in a city like Boston, if you live anywhere in the vicinity, you know what's going on.
Any city. If it's Atlanta, you look around the neighborhood and see houses getting flipped left and right.
But if you were out of state, you have no idea what's going on. And for him, he had no idea that his property was now worth $1.5 million. ARV. So, which is why we got so many callbacks from that out-of-state owner, is because none of them knew what was going on. These were just inherited properties.
Smart. Yep. No, it's funny. We hit the same. We don't hit quite as targeted, but out-of-state absentee all day long. I love that list. We're the same way. So, okay. So you get him on the phone, and so what does he say? He's willing to sell. Does he even have a price in mind?
Yeah, so I get him on the phone. I'm building a rapport, trying to connect with him. And he was like, yeah, I'd be willing to sell. I'm like, okay, well, how much do you want for it, of course? And he's like, I don't have any idea. So I'm like, okay. And he's like, you know what? If you gave me $500,000, I'll be happy with that. $500,000. And I'm already knowing in my head, like the ARV is 1.5 million. Right. But of course, I got to play hardball. Right. So I'm like, well, I need to see the property. So when can me and my partner do a walkthrough? And he's like, well, you can't see it because I don't have a key. There's people living in there. I'm like, okay, well, who's the tenants? Can we coordinate something? He's like, I don't even know who's in there. I'm like, okay, are you collecting rent? Every once in a while, they'll send me a check, but I don't really pay it. So it's all this. I'm like, okay, you want me to pay $500,000 sight unseen? But in the back of my mind, I still know, okay. So I was like, all right, what about $375,000? And he was like, no, I can't do that. So then we started a negotiation of going back and forth, right? So that's kind of how the process started.
So he's saying he's throwing out $500,000, which is a third of what this house is going to be worth. And then you still decide to play hardball. That's some cojones, man.
I'm a glutton for punishment. And I love, getting deals. So
that's hilarious.
Originally, we wanted to actually take this down and do a burn, right? Buy it, renovate it, and then rent it out long term.
Right.
But then midway, or even flip it as condos ourselves. But midway through, we decided to wholesale it off to another investor. Gotcha.
So how did you ultimately get under contract then? You guys, what did you land on price-wise?
We ended up landing on $475.
Okay. So he still came off of his price.
Yeah, he came down some, $475, all cash. I think he gave us 60 days to close.
Okay.
Then we were off to the races. And then after he signed the contract, he went ghost. Disappeared.
No,
actually, before he signed the contract, we sent him the contract.
Oh, yeah, before.
Yep.
We sent him the contract, and
we were negotiating the terms, as is, and we were wanting him to get rid of the tenants or the occupants who weren't paying rent. So we were like, okay, well, you handle that, and he was like, no, I can't handle that,
right?
Because I don't know who they are, and I don't want to go through the Massachusetts eviction process. Which is,
so he sent him it was a form from our attorney, and it was for him to sign, and then we would deliver it to all the squatters that was in the property.
A notice to vacate.
A notice to vacate and things. And the guy would not respond at that point. So I didn't know what was going on, but I'm like the master of emotional intelligence. So whenever my husband gets to a deal where all of a sudden something goes wrong or something goes south, he'll call me in. And he was like, hey, the seller went ghost. I can't get a hold of him. Now it's been a month and no word from him. He's not responding to calls, texts, or emails. So he sent me the email thread. I read through the email thread and I literally say to him, I said, okay, this is what you're about to do. Send him this email now and type it out word for word. And I told him.
She gave me the verbiage, the magical words to say.
Right.
Email him and said, hey, Mr. Whatever his name was. I said, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take care of the tenant problems. You don't have to worry about that. We'll get the squatters out. All we need from you is sign the contract, send it back, and let us know where you would like for us to send your money at, because we're ready to close this in the next week.
Smart.
If that works for you. And then I made him say at the end again, again, if you can just let me know, send me over your banking information as well so I can make sure this stuff gets to the attorney because I want to make sure we get this money in your hand as soon as possible. He sent it over. The guy emailed him back within 1-2 minutes and was like, all set. I'm sending over the contract to you. And I told him, I said, he just did not want to deal with the eviction process here in Boston. Boston is a tenant-friendly state.
Yep.
So you can go through that process for a year. And I could tell he never said it in the email. So he never said, hey, I don't want to deal with the tenants or anything like that. He just didn't respond whenever he sent those emails that had something to do with the tenant. I said, he's not going to deal with that. I said, we have to take that burden on. And that's what we did. And then we passed it on to the seller.
To the buyer.
To the buyer.
Yeah. So you get this thing. So you're just like, forget it. I'll deal with these tenants. And we know that it was a good enough price. Even if it took you a year, somebody else a year, you're buying it low enough. It didn't matter at that point.
Right.
So how quickly did you close then after that, after you finally responded?
So once he responded, we were under contract, right? So now we're like, okay, we need to find a buyer for this. So I had already been talking to contacts we have there. So brokers and people like yourself in Boston who, flip houses, they have brokerages, they have networks of cash buyers. So of course the question is, okay, great. I love the deal. I love the area. I want it. When can I get in? What's the situation, right? And I have to tell them, you can't get in because there's squatters there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and I tell them the situation. There's only a few buyers who wanted to take on that, right? But we found the buyer that was willing to buy it as is with tenants in place and figure that out later. Yeah. And ended up closing probably like 30 days later. And we actually did a double close.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yep.
Yeah, because we definitely didn't want that. So so we had under contract for $475. The ARV was $1.5 million. And the play on these deals, Ken, it's a triplex. So what people do in Boston is they take these old 1900 Victorian triplexes, they gut them, right? And they'll turn them into 3 condos. So they'll spend $100,000 per unit in the rehab. But we were buying it. Our price was per square foot was $150 per square foot. The ARV sale price per square foot was $475. So there was so much meat on the bone there. It was crazy. That's why we wanted to take it down ourselves. But again, being 1,000 miles away, we were like, okay, let's just quick flip this, wholesale it. So we ended up selling it for $580.
Sold it for $580.
So our gross profit was $105,000. We did a double close. So we had paid a transactional lender. I think it was like 1% or something like that. It was like $1,500 or $1,000 to, we did the A to B close. And then an hour later, we went and sold it to the cash buyer the same day.
Awesome. That's a tough one, man, to not take down yourself. When you see that kind of spread, I know you guys scratched your head thinking about that one for a while.
We're thinking of moving back to Boston just to do it.
Right. And then I was like, no, let's go ahead and just wholesale it.
I mean, again, though, it's like that. If we're in it for 800 and we can sell it for 1.5, do we move to Boston for a year and just figure this thing out, right? I mean, that's a lot of stinking money.
Right, because that's what he wanted to do, too. He was like, we can move.
But it was our third deal that we ever closed, our third deal. So August of 2018, we closed our first wholesale deal. We made $11,000. Our second one we closed in September. We made $5,000, and then we closed this one in October. Made $105,000. So now we're like, I mean, this is life-changing money. It was like I was ready to quit my job. I was like, because people don't make that in a year, 2 years, let alone one deal. So it was a life-changing deal for us.
Yep. That's amazing that you hit a unicorn like that right out of the gates. I mean, with a mailer that was so little, you got the perfect seller. I mean, that situation's amazing. And then make $100,000 rip on your third deal.
Who's gonna come along every day?
You're gonna convince everybody that watches this to get into real estate if they're on the fence right now, because they're like, that is most people don't even make that in a year, and you made that in one transaction.
Right.
So let me ask you this:
at that point, buying up properties in North Carolina. Cash.
Is that what you? So you took the money from that and then just reinvested in the money into the business?
Yeah. Multifamilies is what we started buying in, really good areas, single families as well.
Gotcha. So how did this? I'm sure it changed your business and your mindset in a zillion different ways. But what's like the primary way that you feel like it changed your business going forward after that?
I think one of the ways that it definitely changed our business is it showed us that it was possible to do with one of the things that we're really big on is education. And we had spent so much money on education, on getting educated in this business.
Masterminds, mentors, coaches. Before we close one deal, we probably spent upwards of $100,000 just in education, learning.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Right?
Wow.
So when it came down to getting into it, we really then started to see the benefits of all this education that we had been getting over the course of a year. And it really showed us like, oh, okay, shoot, this is what they were talking about in this mastermind. This is what the mentor was saying. And it just helped us really elevate our business and at a rapid pace. Because from there, it really afforded us the ability to start purchasing. And that was our main goal, was to buy and hold.
Yep.
We already had one rental property in Boston, but it definitely changed our life as far as, okay, listen, this is definitely possible with the systems and the right systems and tools.
And we had a lot of our buddies who flip houses. They saw what we did on that one deal, and they started wholesaling.
No doubt, man. It's funny. We flipped for so many years. We wholesale way more than we flip now. It's like at some point in time, you just get the grind wears on you, and wholesaling so easy and low risk. It's just like, just churn those suckers out.
Less capital, less risk.
Yep. Yeah. Most of your bigger players, I feel like in the bigger markets, are wholesalers now. They're not flippers because you can just scale so much easier.
Absolutely.
Our acquisition guy on that property who helped us find the buyer, which the buyer ended up paying him as well on that property. He was a big flipper and is now, and when we contacted him about another property in Boston, and he was like, and him and Dedric just got to talking, he was like, yeah, I'm not doing too much flipping now, Dee. I'm more into wholesaling.
I guarantee dealing with the city of Boston is not easy. Because Atlanta is hard. I can imagine Boston's ridiculously hard.
It is ridiculously hard. And it's very, very cutthroat.
Yeah. It's to where it's just not even worth holding it for a year to work through all your permits and whatnot. It's like, I'll just make a quick rip and get out of here.
Yeah.
Right.
That's amazing. Congrats, guys. I mean, you really haven't been in the business that long, a couple of years, but to build up the portfolio that you've built and to get these kind of deals, I mean, you guys have already hit your stride early on in your real estate investing careers. I think that's phenomenal. Very cool story.
Thank you.
So, well, guys, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Glad to call you guys friends after this.
Well, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Best Deal Ever show, brought to you by Bigger Pockets. If you've been energized, entertained, or enlightened by today's show, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Ken Corsini, or check us out online at redbarnhomes.com. And don't forget, one man's best deal ever may be the inspiration you need to create your next best deal. So, hope to see you on the next episode.